Out of envy for her daughter's looks, she buried the 8-year-old girl in a flour barrel. Fortunately, the father discovered her in time and rescued the barely breathing child, preventing a tragedy. The incident led to a huge argument between the couple, but it did nothing to change the mother's behavior. Instead, her hatred toward the girl only deepened. She believed her daughter was a seductive spirit, using her beauty to steal away her husband's affection. From a young age, the mother never treated her kindly. Even so, every time Emma saw her older sisters snuggled in their mother's arms, she would still try to join in for a hug, only to be heartlessly pushed away each time. Her father would then hold and comfort Emma, but that only provoked the mother into treating her more cruelly. Once, she took scissors and chopped off Emma's hair. The sharp blades even cut her forehead, yet the mother remained indifferent. Little Emma could only hold back her tears, too powerless to resist. Even when she tried hiding under the bed, the mother would drag her out and slap her repeatedly. After being slapped again, Emma pushed her mother away and ran toward the door. It was her first act of defiance. Unexpectedly, this enraged her mother. She grabbed a stick from the floor and smashed it down on Emma's head. Emma, barely alive, was rushed to the hospital by her father. Even the doctor couldn't believe that such brutality had come from her biological mother. He advised the father to separate Emma from her mother, or she would likely suffer further abuse. With no other choice, the father entrusted Emma to his sister's care. Many years passed in the blink of an eye. Emma had grown into an adult. Although she had become a police officer, she still couldn't escape the shadows of her childhood. The young girl died a terrible death. Her body was discarded by the riverside, arranged in a bizarre and eerie posture. Animal hairs of various kinds were stuck to her body, and a small cake had been deliberately placed in her private area. It was obvious that all of this was done intentionally by the killer. Not far from the crime scene, in the middle of the road, a pair of red high heels had also been placed. It seemed as if the killer was taunting the police, or perhaps longing for public attention to this work of art. After investigation, it was discovered that the girl was an excellent student, the typical good girl in everyone's eyes. However, Emma found an unnamed folder on the girl's computer. Inside were explicit photos of the girl. Her classmates also told Emma that she had secretly been in a relationship with a married man for over a year. Clearly, she was not as innocent as she appeared. The police compared the details of two similar cases and found that the methods used were identical. Obviously the work of a serial killer. All the victims had chaotic private lives. After their deaths, the killer arranged their bodies in specific poses identical to that of the Virgin Mary. Emma began to suspect that the killer was imposing his own moral standards, murdering women he deemed morally impure, posing their naked bodies like the Virgin Mary by the riverside, as if offering them to nature for cleansing. At the same time, a retired officer from the archives provided new information. It turned out that over the past 20 years, the killer had committed dozens of murders, and each corpse had been arranged in a specific pose before death. Strangely, the killer suddenly stopped killing 8 years ago, and the cases were left unsolved. Until recently, when the killings resumed, Emma suspected that something must have changed during that period. But before she could make sense of it all, the killer struck again, boldly and brazenly. A female corpse was found in an abandoned wooden cabin. Her body was wrapped in a burlap sack, and the strangulation marks on her neck were horrifying. After forensic analysis, the conclusion was made. The victim died of suffocation, and the marks were intentionally inflicted. It was clearly someone imitating a murder case. Thanks to a report from the girl's mother, the police quickly identified the suspect as the girl's stepfather. It turned out he had harbored malicious intentions toward his stepdaughter, but when she fiercely resisted, he accidentally killed her. To cover up the crime, he mimicked the killer's methods, but the police quickly saw through it. As that case came to an end, another case saw new progress. The flour test results were in. The report showed that samples from the other 3 cake shops didn't match the one found at the crime scene. Only the sister's shop remained. Just as Emma was about to question her sister, she accidentally caught her bribing the lab staff, trying to switch out the test sample. Enraged, Emma charged forward and had her men bring the sister into the interrogation room. The sister claimed she didn't know who the killer was. She just didn't want the cake shop to be associated with the recent murder. Then she flew into a rage, accusing Emma of being heartless and not even visiting their mentally ill mother. Her accusations triggered Emma's memories of being beaten as a child, rekindling her psychological fear. After leaving the police station, she unexpectedly ran into her former brother-in-law at the entrance. He had divorced her sister a few months ago, but still told her she should try to understand her sister. After all, she had held the family together for years. After hearing that, Emma felt a mix of emotions. Still, she went to the hospital to visit her mother. Her mother had become extremely aged. Upon seeing Emma, her mood grew violently agitated. She even struggled to attack her. The doctor told her the symptoms had been ongoing for a long time. She had even once blinded a nurse. Yet, every time the brother-in-law came to visit, she would calm down instantly. That made Emma realize, if her brother-in-law could soothe her mother's emotions, eyes. Could it mean the two were alike? Could he be the real killer? After all, he could easily access the cakes from the shop.